Hey, welcome back to the Easy Hard versus Hard Hard podcast, a podcast dedicated to helping you find the work that matters in your life. Today, we're going to talk about self-motivation and how it relates to self-leadership. But before we get into the science and the academics on this, I want to preface this by saying, I don't want you to be like me. What do you mean by this? This is your podcast. You obviously want us to listen to what you have to say. And while that's true, I don't want you to act like I did. And I'm not talking about today. I'm talking about 5-10 years ago. And this is especially important in the topic of self-motivation because at that time in my life, I was looking to others to motivate me. I didn't tap into myself, my own personal dreams, desires, wants. I was looking at motivation from outside influences. And that's what I mean by don't be like me. If we look to others for motivation, it'll never come. As I think I've said before, motivation is an emotion. It's temporary. It's very valuable on days where you don't feel like doing something or you're not particularly interested or you're tired and you have to dig a little bit deeper to get something done. But motivation is fleeting. The greater influence in how we do work and how we keep ourselves going every day is self-determination, which is that overriding factor of this is what I want to do, and you place it higher than everything else, and you're willing to put in the time, effort, and energy to get there. But sometimes self-determination wanes, and you're going to have to tap in and go a little bit deeper, find that fifth gear, if you will. And that's where self-motivation comes. But the key to self-motivation is knowing that it doesn't come from someone else. It comes from you. In society today, we have a lot of people that are called motivational speakers. You know who they are. You've probably heard them. You probably enjoy some of them. I do myself. The thing about that is you got to take a listen to these people and take the information from it, but don't expect them to be your motivator because only you can motivate yourself. I read one time that of all these conferences, and I think they were using Tony Robbins as an example, only 1% of the people that attend one of his speeches will actually make changes in their lives. And then it becomes less over time. So 1% initially will go out and do something different. And then over time, less and less. Probably getting down to less than, 0.1% who actually make life-changing changes to their lives for a long duration. Why is that? I think that it's because we get hyped up. We hear the powerful words, we feel the energy, and we're really, really excited to go out and do something. But then once we get out there and have to do it, that emotion, that feeling is gone. And then the pain of making the change seems to be greater than the pain that you're currently in. And this is where motivation is kind of a farce. It's a crutch. It's something that if we keep relying on it, it's like a drug. We need more and more and more of it to propel ourselves to the next level. So that's why self-motivation is so important. Having the ability to motivate yourself when there is no video to watch, there is no catchy phrase or motivational poster on the wall. You have to dig deep and you have to decide what you want to be doing and overcome whatever fears or tiredness, anything that's going to prevent you from doing that day. So in the self-leadership theory, self-motivation is part of it. And it's one of the tenets. And I don't know if I believe that it should be as high as it is in this theory or not, but it is. And I think it's very important to discuss because, like I said, motivation is so prevalent in our society. You hear it all the time. I don't feel motivated today, or I need to go talk to, Tim or Robbie and get motivated. That is just kind of not true. And the more you start believing that you need someone else to motivate you, the less motivation you'll be able to generate yourself. So it's very important to both understand self-motivation, what it isn't, and then how we can develop it in our lives. So in the self-leadership theory, they break self-motivation down into kind of three things. And this is, every component of self-leadership has these three things, but specifically today for self-motivation, there are behavioral focused strategies, natural reward strategies, and constructive thought pattern strategies. So once we kind of understand and break down these 3 areas, we'll then be able to understand it. And then maybe you can come up with a way to develop this if you need it, or improve your current self-motivation, and really go out there and chase that work that matters to you. And again, I certainly would say that if you're chasing the wrong work, the easy hard, and you're doing it for others, it doesn't matter how much self-motivation you have, because eventually it's going to wear off, because you don't believe in it. It's not your core values. It's not your core desire. So of course, all of this is based upon that you're chasing your hard work, and you're doing something that really matters to you, and it's something you want to be doing, because no matter how much motivation you have, self or otherwise, you're not going to continue if it's something you don't want to do. All right, so what are our behavioral focused strategies? Probably a new term for many, but behavioral focused strategies are, what gets you to do what you want to do? What behaviors do you take? So the first component of this is self-observation. This goes for, what observation is a common term, but when you're talking about self-observation, it's looking at yourself day to day, tracking your habits, your reaction, your energy level, to build awareness and allow you to build choice and to gain choice in what you're doing. So when you observe yourself over time, and I certainly want to emphasize over time, because if you just look at yourself, as today versus yesterday, sometimes, we're a little bit off and it's not a great measure. But if you observe like how you were a month ago, how you were a year ago, it's a good indicator of what habits you're doing and what energy you derive from the habits, and how that gets you to do the work that you want to do. Another component of the behavioral focus strategies is self-goal setting. This is where you set a goal that then you can observe yourself against. So if I set a goal of losing 10 pounds, well, the goal is, whatever you weigh today minus 10 pounds, and then you chunk it up over time. And that's where the self-observation comes in, where you can say, okay, well, I lost 2 pounds this week and I gained a pound this week or whatever. But over time, that goal is what drives your actions. Sometimes the goal alone is enough self-motivation for someone. If you really want to make this change, or you really want to improve your life in some way, having a goal will help you. I do warn that goals are oftentimes an ideal, and you never want to make a goal the premise for you liking yourself or your worthiness, because a goal is just a moment in time. And once you reach that goal, you're then going to have another goal. So goals are not finite. They're just little milestones on your path in life that get you to where you want to go. And goals can shift over time, right? Sometimes we make goals that are too lofty and we have to dial them back. That's not a bad thing. The key with goal setting is make sure that it's achievable. And if it's not achievable, then through your self-observation, you can modify the goal or delay it, or give yourself some more time and grace in order to get it. Self-cueing is another behavioral focus strategy, and self-cueing are just little reminders in your day to get you back on track. If you're trying to, let's say you want to do 100 push-ups, and a self-cueing might be you put a little Post-it note on your mirror and say, do 10 push-ups. So every time you go to the bathroom and look in the mirror, you see that Post-it note, and maybe you knock out 10. It's little, I guess, reminders along the way that to keep you on track, because one of the things we've talked about before, if you tell yourself you're going to do something and then you don't do it, well, that's in and of itself demotivating, because your mind is starting to protect you from this, and it's going to take even more motivation and more discipline to go do something that you've told yourself you're going to do for many times and you haven't done it. So self-cueing is just a visual or verbal reminder that reinforces your goal, and then you can use those self-cueing over time to observe and then modify those as well. Sometimes a saying or a phrase may lose meaning over time, because if you get to the point where you can do 10 push-ups without a problem, maybe you make it 20 or 30. So again, all of these things are adaptable and should be, changed over time, with the first behavioral focus strategy of self-observation. Self-rewards are the last thing I want to talk about under this category. And self-rewards are celebrating wins that matter to you. And I'm not talking about celebrating every little thing, but if you reach an achievement that you thought was impossible or was a stretch for you, take time to celebrate it. Honor yourself, honor the work that you put in. This is one of the things that not being like me really comes to play, because when I was on my weight loss journey, I accomplished something, but then when I got to that goal, I criticized myself. Well, you did this, but you're still not where you want to be. Well, over time, that just starts weighing on you, and you never feel good enough, and you start pushing harder. And then it's even harder to motivate yourself because you don't look at the achievements that you did. You just look at where you're not. And that's one of the dangers for me of goal setting, is that sometimes goals take weeks, months, years to achieve. So have these little breakout periods, these little milestones along the way that you can celebrate it. Now, if you're doing a weight loss journey, don't make your celebration go out and eat a cake or eat a cheesecake or something. Make it appropriate for the effort, but taking time to acknowledge what you did will reinstill in your mind and your behaviors going forward that, hey, I can do this. I did this before. Celebrate it, reinforce yourself, and move forward. So that's a little bit of a summary of behavioral focus strategies. And if you want more on this, you can obviously look it up. And there's been a lot of books, a lot of articles published on the behavior and how it relates to self-motivation. But in my mind, that kind of just summarizes the keys there. Moving on to the natural rewards strategies. This goes back to that inherent motivation versus external, right? The intrinsic, what drives you, what naturally rewards you. This is really critical to the hard work, because this is where it is what you want to do, not what you think others want to do or what they've stated you should be doing. This is truly you doing what you want to do and finding the rewards because of it. Using an example of writing a book. If you want to write a book, the reward strategy, the natural reward for you would be, I wrote a page or I wrote a paragraph. It could be I wrote a sentence. And you compare that to where you were before, where you weren't doing any of these things. The reward of doing something is probably better than the reward of doing nothing. And when you start getting natural rewards, you start building momentum. You start building appreciation of the work you're doing. And that will start helping you to find the motivation. Because on a day that you're not particularly interested in doing something, you can go back and remember the reward and the feeling of the reward. And this also can go back to your behavior focus. If you appropriately, gave yourself self-reward on that moment, then you're going to remember that feeling, that sensation. And that alone can then motivate you that day to get over whatever hump you're facing. Natural rewards strategies also help you get through the boredom, because a lot of times the work that we want to do is very boring. You have to learn a new skill, a new ability. You have to learn some just new information. And sometimes that becomes overwhelming. But when you have the natural reward and you know that you're on your path and you're doing the work that you want to do, then you're going to be more inclined to keep doing it, because you have that sense and that awareness that while this might be boring or uninteresting at the moment, it's for the greater good. This really plays into easy hard work, and why I think a lot of people procrastinate and look for motivation from others is because they know that what they're doing is not what they want to do. They're bored, so they can't self-motivate. That's a great indicator that you're doing the wrong work. If you're continually bored or uninterested, then it's probably time to take a look at the work itself, and you're probably going to find that it's easy hard and it's stuff that you don't want to be doing. Okay, the last part of the self-leadership theory and how it relates to self-motivation are constructive thought patterns. When I first started learning about self-leadership, I thought constructive thought patterns were pretty woo-woo and they didn't really matter. Okay, so this goes to like the first component of this is like positive self-talk. What are you saying to yourself? These aren't fake affirmations or phrases that you hear others saying, but this is how do you talk to yourself on a day-to-day basis? Are you positive? Are you encouraging? Are you motivating yourself with how you talk to yourself? If you're always beating yourself up and saying, I'm not good enough, or I should have done this, or I did this, but it wasn't good enough, that's just going to defeat you. If you had a friend like that, would you keep wanting to talk to that person? I was very critical with myself, and my self-talk was terrible. It got so bad that I started saying these things aloud, so my wife and others around me could hear what I was actually saying to myself. And when I started saying them aloud, it became more and more ridiculous. And I was like, why am I saying this to myself? No wonder I'm not motivated or inspired to go do the work, because I'm just beating myself up repeatedly. So positive self-talk is very constructive, and it's not woo-woo. It's not, all the things I used to think it is. Words matter, and especially the words that you say to yourself. Mental imagery is another component of constructive thought patterns, and this is where you visualize where you want to go. Not visualizing the fact that like a vision board or cutting things out of a magazine, cars or houses or things that you want, but how do you visualize yourself after you've achieved the work that you're going? A good exercise for this is, imagine your perfect day. Imagine if you accomplished what you wanted to accomplish, what would that look like? And then visualize it. Visualize how you'd go about your day, what you would do, how you'd interact with others. Visualize achieving something. I had a friend that was getting his PhD, and he said to help, him visualize it, he would write, doctor his name. Even though he hadn't earned that yet, he wanted to see what it looked like and felt like. And that helped him go on a day-to-day basis when he was deep in research and he didn't want to do it. He was tired. He just wanted to sleep. Just taking time to write his name, sign his name. I think that's a good strategy to help you, because if you can't see something, you'll never achieve it. If your mind can't tell you that it's possible, you're never going to do it. The last component of constructive thought patterns is cognitive reframing. This is very important when you hit a wall, and you may hit a wall for days, and you're trying to go with all these other strategies we talked about to motivate yourself, but you're just not getting there. This is where you reframe. And this goes back to the behavior of self-observation. Maybe it's time to take a step back. Maybe it's time to reduce the goal a little bit, take some of the pressure off yourself. Maybe it's time just to be quiet and think about something and really contemplate a new way to do it. I know that in writing, either in academics or writing the book that I'm writing, a lot of times I have to rely on cognitive reframing. One of the greatest things I ever heard was a guy compared cognitive reframing to being at a play and there's 100 actors on the stage. So it's very difficult to focus on which actor to look at, where the plot of the play is or whatever. But let's say there's an intermission, or you go take a break and you come back and there's only 2 or 3 actors on the stage. Well, in a way, that makes it not only easier to follow the play and to understand what's going on, but it also is a way to reframe what you're observing and what you're participating in. The same can be with your mind. Sometimes stepping away is the best way, and doing so in a very gentle and positive way. A lot of people will say, don't quit something. Well, what if you quit smoking? What if you quit doing drugs? What if you quit, treating people poorly? Those are all great things, right? So why can't we take that same kind of mentality into quitting the work that we're doing or the actions that we're taking? Sometimes quitting will just help you reframe the situation and give your brain a break, give you a cognitive reset, so then you can be more constructive. This is very important if you find yourself beating yourself up, going back to the positive self-talk. If you're becoming very negative with yourself, it is probably time for cognitive reframing and getting your mind back to positivity, focusing on your goals, and imagining what the benefits are doing. I said this earlier, but sometimes the pain of change is worse than the pain of where you're at. This is where cognitive reframing really comes into play. A lot of times you're doing the work, you really believe in it, it's what you want to do, but it becomes very difficult and you want to quit. This isn't the quitting I'm talking about, but this is also where you really need to reframe and really reset and focus on where you're going and why you're going on it. Sometimes we'll find that the work that we thought was hard has become easy hard. Maybe you do have to walk away completely, but give yourself the time and take a few days, weeks, month, whatever it takes. Make sure that you're reframing yourself first before you decide to quit something permanently or decide that it's an easy hard, because frustration is also like motivation. It's an emotion, and if you give it time, it may go away. So self-motivation is something we all need, but we need to understand it in the way we talked about it today. Self-motivation is internal. If your motivation is coming from external factors, it's probably not motivation. It's probably not going to take you to where you need to go. Tap into what you want to do. Inspire yourself, motivate yourself. And I think chasing the hard work and sticking with it will become easier, and you'll be happier and more rewarded once you put it in the right perspective. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If this resonated with you, send it to a friend. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this podcast so you get notifications when a new one comes out. And also, I encourage you to subscribe to my Substack, which I'll put the link in the show notes, where I kind of give some daily musings and go into more depth on some of these topics in a narrative format. As always, I thank you for your time. I'm Bobby Shelton. Until next time, keep chasing the hard work and find the work that matters in your life.